Welcome to the Conscious Radio Network's YouTube channel. Become enlightened, have fun, and tell all your friends and family to share with everyone they know. You can find us on Facebook and stay up to date on our Facebook group, or find us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Our podcasts can be found on Libsyn, iHeart, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more. Most of all, remember to go to our official website at ConsciousRadioNetwork.com for podcasts, hosts, future shows, and scheduling. We also want to welcome our international audience. Don't stop now. Enjoy the community. Subscribe today.
This is the Conscious Radio Network.
Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you might be on the spaceship we call Earth. Welcome to Conscious Radio Network's weekly podcast series, The Seance. I'm your host, Reverend Dr. Paul Meckes. If this is your first time tuning in, please click like, subscribe, share, comment. Don't forget to follow wherever you listen to your podcasts. Today, the leadership contradiction. An expert in helping leaders leverage the strengths of human connection to achieve explosive success in their own careers and with those they lead. She unapologetically believes people don't need to be treated fairly. They just need to be treated as unique individuals as they are in order to thrive and succeed. She has led teams of hundreds and helped to create paths for dozens of great leaders. She can help teams and drive accountability, productivity, and positive financial results while guiding you in leadership presence, growth mindsets, and new tools to help you attract and retain individuals with exceptional talent. Let's welcome to the show today, Tracy May. Welcome, my friend.
Thank you. Good morning, Paul. I'm so excited to be here.
Same here. When I looked at the website, looked at all your information, like, yes, we need some leaders.
Yes, we all do. Yes.
Yes. Some are leaders, some are followers, some do it better than others, but we all need that lead.
Yes, in a positive way, for sure.
Yes. So let's go a little back as a sum of all this. What got you into this field of leadership and how you do it?
Yeah, thank you. So that goes way back, and I won't put my age out there, but it doesn't really matter. Actually, I started very young. I was finishing high school early and needed something to do in the afternoons. And believe it or not, I happened upon this little boutique on the way home, and walked in and met this woman who just in a moment had this great connection with me. And we started talking about things that involved leadership and some, spiritual aspect of being in charge of something really important. And before I left there that day, she asked if I would manage her shop. I was 15 years old.
Wow.
So that was my afternoon job, my very first job. And it was a lovely high-end boutique. And I got to manage her store and work with customers and purchase things from all over the world and, run fashion shows for her. So it's really funny when I look back. That really was my first, kind of venture into leadership. And I just loved it. I loved meeting people. I loved being present with my heart and just connecting with others. And so that really is where it started. And it continued throughout. I found that I was having success. And again, I didn't know it at the time, but I just kept going from one thing to the other and being elevated into positions with more people. And it always seemed to work. And I was bringing success to the companies I led. And, fast forward, 30 plus years, I realized it's the way I've always done it. And that's the way that's brought me success is really connecting with the people that I lead. And also calling out, myself included, at times when I didn't do the right things to be a good leader. And of course, I've had some terrible leaders that I could reflect upon. And so that is kind of where my love for leadership came, that I could make an impact on other people's lives by helping them be seen, valued, and heard. And in the end, I'd be successful for those companies that I led. And so, yeah, now I'm taking it on the road.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I've always felt that it's a very important thing to in business or any personal relationship is when you're first establishing a connection, in business or personal, it's it's we have to look at the objective is because I see a lot of people out there, as soon as they have that very first connection, whether they had a bad day or not, it always reflects that attitude, that character, that I don't know, distastefulness always first comes out, and then you just lost a customer, or you just lost a team, or you lost somebody of potential client. And what is a strategy of helping keep people apprehensive in business and in leadership of establishing that first connection to try to keep away your own personal problems, so to speak, have them impressed?
Wow, that's a really great question, and there's a great answer for it too. And I've experienced this, of course, as the leader, but also as the person being led. And it's about self-awareness. It's about emotional intelligence. It's about me as a leader. I'll speak from my point of view. It's being aware of who I am and removing my ego, my title, if you will, regardless of what it is. It's because a title doesn't make a leader. So many of us were taught at early ages, to get that title, that corner office, that vice president, that whatever executive. And it gets so wrapped up in our ego that we forget that it's about the privilege of leading other humans. So the best way to kind of look past that, or the way that I train leaders that are struggling, or having lots of turnover, or just not being successful, is saying, hey, let's look at who you are. Do you realize how you show up in front of your employees? Is it egotistical, chastising, punishing type of way? Like, you didn't do enough sales calls today, or what's wrong with you? And, those just awful things that I've heard said to myself, that it makes you deflated. It makes you feel like, why am I working here? Who is this person? I don't want to be here. And then you go home and take that to your family or friends. And it's just such a downer. When at the end of the day, if we learn to bring our authentic selves that are hopefully as much free of ego as we can make it, because we are humans again, but, and be aware of how we show up, that we can really make a difference in the lives of our employees. And, that equates to success at the bottom line. Hands down, I've proven that over and over. So that is really the key, is, for leaders to be aware, to actually qualify for being a leader by understanding that their key job it is not to, light a fire under those employees, but to lift them up and let them soar. If you hired the right person, you don't need to, be one of those leaders that cracks a whip. All you have to do is let them flourish, let them fly. And it's such a positive thing for everybody. And then those same employees get to go home and go, gosh, I really love my boss, and I love my job, and I love the people I work with, and I love my customers. And it just becomes this really positive thing. And it's something that can happen. And I know there's some, naysayers out there about what's this love thing, but I know we'll get into that more.
Yeah. That is the bottom line when it comes to productivity and efficiency, is to let people be authentic, let them be themselves. You don't necessarily have to micromanage everybody. And keeping the ego away as a leader. And I'm guilty of it. I'm sure many people are. That, I could be sitting in my cubicle at work, concentrating on something. My mind is so focused on it, and somebody will come in, a client or a vendor or something like that, and immediately trying to disconnect what you're doing because you're frustrated,
Yeah.
and then now paying attention to just turning off that switch and switching gears immediately is hard to do.
Yeah, it is hard. And I mean, I'm guilty of that too, a thousand times over. But I think as I've gotten more mature in my life, I wouldn't say my career, but in my life, I made a conscious decision that who's ever in front of me, like whatever comes out of my mouth or how I look at them, often it's just making sure you meet their eyes, directly, can actually change their life. It can change
Yeah.
the trajectory of not just their work environment and their work life, but their home life. I mean, people are people. We forget that. We've forgotten that for so many years that, we go to a job and we're just, we're the title that we've been given and the pay that we receive, and we're this other person at work. At the end of the day, that doesn't pan out. We have to be ourselves. We have to be authentic at work and remember that we do impact the people that we're around. And so I've just had a lot of fun with it. I think I decided several years ago in my last corporate job that I just wasn't feeling good. I wasn't feeling heard. I was gung ho. I was still thinking about that corner office and, wanting to be this, elevate myself to this next corporate position because I made a lot of money. And at the end of the day, I really realized that was not filling my heart. It wasn't filling my soul. It was leaving me feeling empty and not important. And, that's when I started my business, BU Leadership, to do coaching with leaders, from new leaders to the C-suite, to say that there's a huge part of our job that a lot of us were missing all of these years. And it has nothing to do with the title. And that's when I suddenly thought, I don't want this title. I don't want this role if it's not going to allow me to positively impact other people. So it just became less about the quotas and the things that my daily tasks. It was more about how can I make this person feel amazing today so that they do amazing things at their job, and then they come home feeling amazing, and with their children or their families. And it just became a bigger thing for me, more of a passion of how can I make that impact and show others. It's not that hard. We all have it in us if we choose to do to look at life this way and look at other people.
Yeah. Sometimes we have to step outside of ourselves and observe the situation and see how it is we have to react, how we have to handle things and stuff. So
yeah, absolutely.
So let's go into your book, The Leadership Contradiction. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So about 3 years ago, it was during the pandemic, and a lot of isolation with people. And fortunately, I had a beautiful canyon real close to my home that I could walk from my house, and half a mile later was down in a canyon. And I was walking this one morning, and I was all alone. There was nobody else down in the canyon. And suddenly I just felt this presence, and like I needed to stop. I needed to kind of look back, look forward. And there was this absolute amazing time and where I felt like my whole life was at this one pivotal moment where I had seen where I had come from. I saw where I was going, and that there was all these choices I had made along the way, either good or bad, dark or light. I had made choices, and that even though I was, I was 55 at that date, and because I comment about that in my book, and I thought, I believed I made all the decisions I would make in my life up until that point, that I'd made them much earlier, and that it was kind of just unrolling the way that it was going to go. And at that moment on that hike in that canyon, I realized that the biggest decisions were yet ahead of me. And if I realized that those choices that I was going to make, the forks in the road, the different paths I would take, would impact not only myself, but others, that something was about to change. And strangely, and I talk about this in my book, I took out my cell phone and I recorded those notes of what I was thinking about the journey and the paths and the choices, and never thinking anything of it. And, just filed it away. And I went to some, growth webinar a year later, and I happened to remember that. And I brought it up as a topic and about choices. And from there it went to, you need to write a book. And lo and behold, everything lined up. And I wrote a book based upon that hike and the choices that we have. So the leadership contradiction, choosing a path of love and kindness, was my point of view of, let's take this journey. And so it's about my journey, but I think it's many others' journey as well. And thank you for putting the cover up there. That picture I picked in 30 seconds because I knew that's what I wanted to look like. I knew I wanted the sunlight as I was walking towards. I'm an avid mountain biker and hiker. And so that reminds me of paths that I've been on down in that canyon. And so I referred to it a lot, but just so much fun looking at that. And my business, the leadership, BU Leadership, is all about being authentic. And we all have a story to tell. We all have different choices to make. But if some of my choices, again, either good or bad, helps other people, it's about which path are you choosing today? Maybe you'll have 5 choices in a day. Maybe you have 10. Maybe there's some really big ones that you have, but it's really fun to look at life that way. Yeah.
And what struck me as that was the first thing that came when I was reading the profile and stuff. It says, that you believe that we don't need. It's not necessarily being treated fairly, but being treated as a unique individual. Explain that a little bit.
I'd be happy to. That sometimes gets people. I've had people go, I don't believe you. And before they even know, right? It's like, that's not, everybody needs to be treated fair. There's this big push to be treated fair. And I'm like, oh no. So probably a dozen years ago or more, I remember I reported directly to the president of a company I was working for. And there was this big push to talk about treating people fairly. And I felt like when I listened to the comments that he made, and just, it was more about, treat everybody the same, and I had been called into meetings where one person wasn't doing their job or they were misbehaving. And so the whole team of leaders got pulled in and everybody was scolded. Everybody was told, these rereading the rules and the Riot Act and all of that. And then you all leave feeling so like disappointed in your role. Well, what I found was that trying to treat people fairly was treating the leaders and the people that were the superstars the same as the ones who weren't performing. And I've seen it happen so many times, and everyone leaves feeling like, ugh. So my response to that is that a good leader will take that person who's not behaving well or not performing and have a private conversation with them and help them get on the right track. The others, you've got people that have different talents, different strengths. You need to treat each of those and have relationships with each of those persons in a way that helps them succeed. Different people may have different needs. Some people just want a conversation, a one-on-one once a week to say, you're doing a great job, you can improve here and everything. And then you feel valued, you feel seen. Some people just want you to send an email saying, you're doing a great job today. There's all these different ways that people need to be treated uniquely. And in my opinion, as a leader, another one of our primary responsibilities is to get to know those individuals so that you know what pushes their buttons positively, what lifts them up, which makes them feel successful, the stuff they need to succeed. That's really what a leader is. The leader is that we, go in a direction that our company or our bosses or whomever, our investors, want us to go. And that we are such a good leader because we're taking such great care of these employees by treating them uniquely. All those people follow us. But they follow us in the way that they are going to be most successful. And then we've got this team of amazing people That, I believe, is what a true leader is. And that is why I really feel like we need to treat people uniquely and not fairly. And it's not fairly like everybody gets the same compensation and, pay and, all that HR stuff. Like I absolutely believe in that. Like that fairness is a given to me. But it's the uniqueness that allows you as a leader to stretch a little bit further and get to know who those individuals are, because there are no two of us the same.
Yeah.
There's not. And if we tap into that in the workplace, or even in community leadership, then we're going to have achieved much greater success than just, being a robot of trying to be fair,
Yeah.
That's a little bit about that. Yeah.
Yeah. We're observing the word fair incorrectly. We're not looking at it the right way.
Correct.
And see if you agree with this. Is, like you said, that we should encourage our leaders to be able to also encourage everybody that they lead to help those around them. That, if somebody has a particular strength, but they notice, one or two others are struggling, is that leader should encourage them, those with those strengths, to prop them up, help them. And if these people that have these weaknesses and stuff like that, and not weaknesses as in a bad way, but in a way that you see that they're trying to strive to be strong in particular things, whether they're introverted or whatnot, and they just have a problem, but with everybody trying to help and prop these people up and training them, so to speak, and getting everybody on the same same playing field. So
yeah, I believe that with that. I believe in that 100%. And this is my take on it. I believe everyone has strengths that are greater than other, characters that they have as far as, their ability to do their job. And it's important that we recognize those strengths in each person and not try to have everybody the same, to fit a certain, criteria that is just, yes, you do. Can this person sell if it's a sales position? Yes. Can they manage if it's a management position? But it goes further than that. And what it is that our weaknesses can never be, we can work on them and make them better. And I'm all for that. I've done so many assessments in my career, and I do several of them for my coaching clients as well. But I think, probably 20 years ago, I did the Strengths Finder, and I actually put my results, my top 5 strengths, outside my front door of my office. I was the general manager at the time of a very large full service hotel. And then I bought the book and the assessment for the rest of my team, and I had them take it, and they put theirs outside their door, and so on and so forth, till we had the whole hotel. And it was really fun because we would approach each other knowing that we may not have that one of those top 5 strengths that they have. We may have one or two that in common, but we may have one or two that they don't have, and vice versa. And if I went to them and said, "Hey, I need help with this," there was this collaboration, there was this community, there was this lifting up of all of us, and me allowing them to learn from me, and I learned from everybody. Just because I had the senior title meant really not a lot, except that I got paid more, and it was my responsibility at the end of the day with customer service scores and financials. But really, it was about learning more and helping them to learn more. So it was a lot of fun because you'd see people stopping at doorways of other supervisors or managers and checking kind of until we knew inherently what people's strengths were. And we would go to maybe one person in particular that had a strength of belief. Maybe we had this big goal and we were struggling with feeling like, could we make it? And we'd go to them and say, I would say as a general manager, hey, let's have, Dennis lead the group today, because we got to have this big goal that we've all got to reach, and he's got this really great strength of belief. Dennis, lead us in this, help us understand as a team. So I believe so strongly in using other people's strengths to lift the whole group. And often I'm going to be, as a leader, getting those strengths from all the people that I'm responsible for. I don't need to be at the top, and sometimes I'm not even, the person, in charge. If I'm smart, right, I look at the talents of my team and really look at who they are and what they bring and how they can help us all succeed. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. How does leading with love and kindness benefit the bottom line?
Yeah, I like that question too. I've been asked many times. I don't have time, or I've been told I don't have time for that. I've had leaders that have said I don't have time to be all lovey-dovey or kind. I've got a bottom line to meet, and my answer is always, if you don't take the time to be kind to your team that's got to make that bottom line and be loving, and loving as in platonic love, you're going to miss the great gifts and opportunities that your teams have to bring to the table. Everybody wants to be loved in a human way, in a platonic way. I have a chapter in my book called Love is Not a Four-Letter Word, or it's a subchapter. And, I think that some shenanigans of leaders and people in high profile places have made that word love kind of a dirty word over the last dozen years by not behaving properly at work or otherwise. And I think we need to get that back into the workplace, where we can talk about loving people in a human way, in a platonic way, that we lead. We all are human beings. Some people are need that attention more than others, but at the end of the day, I think we all do. We all need to be seen, and that is a human thing, to be seen, to heard, and valued. And that is, to me, part of being of loving someone or loving that individual. At the end of the day, if you can love others and show them kindness, and let them run with who they are, you're going to achieve great success, bottom line. I've proven that over and over. In some of I do kindness seminars, like kindness and management and that sort of thing I teach. And Mary Barra with GM is such a great example that I like to put out there, because a lot of people know who she is. They know about General Motors, and that the company was really struggling and not making the bottom line, and at really some very dangerous places financially. And they brought her in, and that's all she talked about was kindness and treating people humanly and with love. And within a year, their financials were off the chart. They had retention. They had better customers. They were, the company was growing. And, this is a, billion-dollar company. And yet, she talks about love and kindness. So, I'm so glad that there are other people out there that have taken that stance to say it does matter. It can impact the bottom line. So
yeah, especially companies that size. If it can work for a company that size, it can work for a mom and pop small bricks and mortar company.
100%,
Absolutely,
100%, all of us, and in any position, whether we're the top leader or not, it's just a way of being and doing life, doing work.
Yeah. How does loving ourselves impact those around us?
Yeah, that's huge. Self-care is something that's thrown around today, and I don't know that a lot of people know what that really means. Myself included. There was a time where I felt like I needed to work hard. I needed to keep driving and pushing myself, and felt very distraught, thinking it was just I wasn't working hard enough. When really what it was I wasn't taking care of myself and loving myself. And I developed this thing that I called P.S. I Love You. And for me, that's just the way I call it. But P.S. for Palm Springs. I was living in Southern California, and I I knew that Palm Springs was an hour and a half away, and I started making this little kind of journey several times a year when I was feeling like I was getting stressed and work was intense and maybe even personal things were intense. I would be like, okay, time for PS I love you. And I would just book a room at a really nice resort out in Palm Springs and take a day off and leave early in the morning and head out that way with the sun coming up and by myself. It wasn't something that included anyone else, although it can for some people. But I would drive out there and I have this little rituals. I would stop at this little coffee shop. I would stop at this little shopping area. I would have lunch at a certain place, check into the hotel, lay by the pool, go to my favorite little crystal shop and, just all these really neat things that I wanted to do to make myself feel loved internally, just connect with my own heart. And, within 24 hours, I was on my way back home and I was so refreshed and felt so full of life. And it gave me this, this new lease to, do my job better and to approach people in a more positive way. So I just believe that loving ourselves can get us in a place where we have the energy, we have the positivity and the ability to influence others in a really good way because we've taken care of ourselves. We've given ourselves love. And it could be as simple as going out and walking along the beach, or it could be, my version, P.S. I love you, or any number of things that speaks to your soul and speaks to your heart. So I highly recommend it. And it needs to be not just during your 2 weeks vacation a year, but it needs to be once a month at least. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Very important to take care of number one.
100%.
Yourself.
Yeah. It's not selfish. Yeah. It's actually, well, it's kind of selfish, but it impacts other people in a great way. So yeah.
That's where it all starts. Absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When it comes to I want to say inter office competition, that actually came to mind earlier on during our interview, but I wanted to ask that. Do you think that, because it seems like a lot of businesses out there have these, internal competitions and stuff like that. And it seems that might be a hindrance when it comes to the bottom line. What is your thought on intercompany competition?
Yeah. I feel strongly about competition is great when it's, you need to produce these numbers and the top person gets a bonus or a trip or something. Great. That's all fun and it's important to business. But when people are pitted against each other to the point that they don't trust one another, it dilutes the team and it really helps disintegrate everybody's forward movement. I've had plenty of bosses like that talk about the other employees to you and just kind of do their best to separate, feeling that if they get some good competition going, you're all going to fight to be the best and it's going to make them look good. The total contrary is true. And again, I believe that that's part of the leadership contradiction, which I write about a lot in my book, is when leaders do this, where they try to pit one employee against the other, or they try to be the top dog by, sharing secrets with the other employees or making it all about who's the best and only lifting that person up. There's so much damage that's done to companies. And, I have clients come to me, CEOs of companies, confidentially saying, I've been told I have a problem, I'm not treating people well, or it's, but I got to make the bottom line. And I'm like, well, let's approach it differently. And we talk about, are you aware of how you show up? Are you aware of how you lead people? Are you, in tune with your own emotional intelligence? Are you just trying to, get people to compete like dogs in an arena? Or are you saying we all have talents to bring and we can lift them all up? And again, I have a lot of clients with big egos, just like I used to have. It still comes up every so often, but, it's taking, helping them to evaluate themselves. And I do it in a very confidential, of course, private way, and help them understand that it's not softness that's going to ruin their company. It's not a point of view that just is not accepted in business. It's just something that they haven't tried yet. And it's not like you have to put a sign on the door, I'm loving my employees, or,
Yeah.
it's behavior, it's self-awareness, it's emotional intelligence, it's not being contradictory as a leader. It's not making competition, as you referred to at the beginning, as, the fight to the top. That doesn't work.
Yeah.
It really doesn't work.
And maybe the prize should be a collective prize rather than an individual prize. That way, everybody as a collective is working hard together to get that prize for everybody, rather than it being singled out to whoever that one single winner would be.
Yeah, I do both. I can recall, and I do write about this in the book too. So you're touching on so many things, and I don't know if I'm gonna have to send you a copy of the book. I don't know. If you
I hadn't even read the book yet. I was like,
it's crazy. Yeah, but you keep touching on all these things. So I talk in there about a sales team that I led years ago, and this is a great answer to your question. So I don't believe only in team, what do you call it? Team prizes, because I think that you still need the individual. You'll still need the top performer who gets X bonus, maybe it's thousands of dollars, or it's whatever, extra money on their paycheck, or a raise, or whatever. Because I think that there's all individuals, and particularly in certain areas, strive for that. Like they need that carrot. But I also talk about, as a team, I put this thing out there and said, hey, we've got to make these big goals this year. I think there were 6 different individuals that were part of the sales team. And I said, if you guys get this collectively, which is to your point of the team win, then we're going to go on a trip. We're going to do a road trip. And it was so exciting for all of them. It brought them together as a community. It brought them collaboratively together. It helped those people that were at the lower end of the scale that probably weren't as experienced and may not get those big numbers, but they still had a piece to, part in that play. That it brought them all together to support one another and to help get where they were. So the top performer was the top performer. Again, that was no surprise, right? And they went way over their budget, but that helped the rest of the team. And the rest of the team, maybe the person who gave the least amount of revenue to this group didn't feel dismantled and punished, or like they didn't do good enough, because they were still part of the team. So it was funny because they asked me, they said, well, will you go with us? Because they thought I was a cool boss. So they planned a weekend getaway, and we rented a little casita. We drove together. So it was a true road trip, and everybody had their own rooms, and we had massages, and we had, great dinners, and it was just really a lot of fun. It was just a weekend getaway, but they still talk about it today. And these are employees who worked for me 20 or 30 years ago. So, so that made me want to put that in the book. But yeah, so team prizes are super important, because it will impact everyone, and those superstars will still be superstars. And they'll end up being more or less leaders within that group. It takes away a lot of the day-to-day stuff that you need to do. You just set them free, and that top performer will probably lead the team for you. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Awesome. Yeah. So before we wrap up the show, how can people find you? We got your website scrolling on the bottom, but for those who are listening, where they can find you, your website, and where they can find your book.
Great, thank you. So the quickest way to get everywhere is to go to the URL. Excuse me, Talk with Tracy. So Talk with Tracy, TRAYCE.com, and that will take you right to my website. It'll take you to a link where you can book an appointment with me. I do 30-minute coaching sessions free. So please take advantage of that, because we could solve some really key things for you even in 30 minutes. And if you want to work with me more, we can talk about that later. There's a link on there to buy my book. It is available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, but you can link through my website too. So everything you can go to talkwithtracy.com or buleadership.com. and you'll find all of that. It's all interconnected. But I'd love to have a chance to chat with each of you. It's been such a pleasure to be on here and talk about what I am really passionate about, and that's leadership, and leading with your heart, connecting with people. And I'd be happy to share some of that wisdom with you, as I know you have wisdom to share with me. So yeah, go find me at talkwithtracy.com.
Awesome. Thank you, Tracy. Now, before we close,
Yes.
What would you like to offer as a takeaway for our audience?
Yeah. So anybody who gives me a call or checks in with Talk with Tracy and books an appointment with me, in the next 2 weeks, I will send you a copy of my book autographed.
Sweet.
Great. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. And yours is on the way too, Paul.
Awesome. I'll shoot you the address.
Okay. Love it.
Email.
Love it. Great.
Cool. Tracy, thank you very much. Blessings. You are doing awesome work and helping lead our leaders and helping our leaders, which we need more desperately than ever. And the work that you do. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. I'm grateful for our time together. Thank you, Paul.
You are very, very welcome. Thank you, everybody, for watching Conscious Radio Network's The Seance, and we will see you next week.